Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Anna Morphides with Mending Hearts Counseling, and today's video is going to be, in my opinion, the most important video that I have ever made so far, not only as a counselor, but as a human being, having a human experience, healing what I have chosen to as far as my attachment style goes, core beliefs go, my sense of self. So aside from being a counselor, a human being having a human experience and healing my own insecurities that arise from situations. And it's all about the anxious and avoidant dance. It is now a true fact. It is known science that no one escapes an attachment style. We all acquire an attachment style when we are children based on our predominant caregivers' interactions with us. So there's the 4 S's that a child needs to have predominantly in order to have a secure attachment style. And those are to be safe, to be seen, to be secure, and to be soothed. Now, if there's any sort of violence, physical violence, emotional abuse, any sort of abuse, then already some of those are compromised and the child is not going to be securely attached. So then the child will develop a mechanism in order to protect itself and try to make sense of what is taking place, because innately we are born to receive unconditional love because we know that we are worth that and we deserve that. So when we are not receiving that as a child, as we are growing up, and we get a beating or we get criticized or we get punished for, like I would get punished for falling down, like being a kid, and if I tripped and I fell down and I hurt myself, I would get a beating for that. I was always trying to make sense of these things in my life, like why are they taking place? And so we develop an attachment style, our attachment style depends on the ego that we develop that becomes a misguided ally trying to protect us or to make sense of what is taking place in our environment. So if you read the book Brainstorm by David Siegel, he talks about the attachment styles quite in depth, because this book is actually geared to help us understand teenagers. And teenagers are like adolescents, that, that age of 12 to 24, which is an adolescent, and then the teenager is in that stage. They're coming right off that childhood age that their core beliefs are formed, the attachment style is formed, because between the ages of 0 to about 7 to 12 is when we acquire what we think and feel about ourselves, and we develop our attachment style. So this talks about it. Keeping the love you find also talks about the attachment style. And this is the book that has saved me to understand my anxious attachment style so much. And I hope that this video will help others who, I don't want to use the word suffer, but it feels like suffering when you grew up having this anxious attachment style develop within yourself, because when we carry that into our adult relationships, it really affects it. And a lot of the times, as I don't want to label us as anxious attached people, I'm going to just say, for a lot of us that developed this anxious attachment in order to make sense of what was happening in our childhood, when we are adults, we are going to bring in an avoidant 1,000%, because this is how we learn and this is how we grow. So there is actually I have to put glasses on now because I'm getting old and I can't see without them to read small letters. This book really highlights that the thesis is relatively simple. In childhood, each of us failed to get some essential needs met fully by our caretakers. The result was the creation creation of an emotional wound. We instinctively respond to this wound by developing a pattern of protective behaviors designed to prevent further pain and a fatal outcome. So this is where the ego comes in and develops the attachment style. So you can either develop an avoidant attachment style or you develop an anxious attachment style during those stages as a child. So those two are going to bring in each other later on as adults, because our core wounds become the blueprint for healing for our partners. So for me, it makes sense to me that I'm going to bring in an avoidant, because if I brought in an anxious attached person as well, then we would both cling to each other and we would have an unhealthy connection. But I need an avoidant to come in order for me to start to feel, because them being uncomfortable with me being clingy is going to force me to see, why am I needing validation? Why am I needing to cling? Why am I thinking and feeling this way? This is the only way that I'm going to understand that I am anxiously attached. I did not know this in the beginning. I did not know why I was always bringing in people that were the complete opposite of me. So it's not because they're a jerk or they're mean or they don't care about you or all these things that we fabricate in our mind, and we almost relive that experience. Not almost, we relive the experience of our childhood, because this book says here too that in adulthood, that ego that we have created as a child, it will guide us to a person, and then that will, like as adults, it will guide us to a person in a romantic way, and then we fall in love. The yearning we experience is the anticipation that this person will meet our caretakers will meet the needs of our caretakers failed to satisfy in our childhood. Then a problem arises immediately because our selected partner, bearing similar childhood hurts, also enters the relationship with expectations of need, satisfaction, and opposite patterns of self-protection. So there's going to be opposite patterns of self-protection that bring in each other in order to understand their wounds. But the collision of these mutual expectations and opposing patterns of defense creates a core conflict called the power struggle, which turns the dream of love into a nightmare of frustration and disillusionment, bringing most relationships to an end. And this is the unfortunate thing that happens, because most of us do live unconscious. I lived an unconscious life until I was 38 years old, and then I was blessed with a different knowing. But I didn't learn that just naturally through being a student, in a general degree. Like I learned a lot more later on in life. I mean, so at 38, I wanted to understand more, so I started reading on my own. But then after, when I went back to school and became a counselor in my 40s, I learned even more about attachment styles and core wounds, and why I would bring in, like what my vibration, it would bring in an avoidant in order for me to realize that I have this unhealthy pattern. And I don't want to label it unhealthy, because I mean, it's just, yeah, I don't want to say, oh, we're unhealthy or then avoidant is unhealthy. It's not unhealthy. It's just what we know, but it doesn't work. And we bring these people in order for us to heal it. So now that we know this, we can stop thinking, what the hell is wrong with me? Because my whole life, this is what I'm thinking, because my end result of my connection with the masculine is always the one that I had with my mother. Not being seen, not being heard, not being understood. So then living in fear, because this last week, I've really had to dig deep into my remnants of my anxious attachment style, because I was trying to understand. So I'm asking the masculine to hang out with me, and masculine does so naturally, the predominant masculine in my life will be of an avoidant attachment style. So the way that avoidants respond to life a lot of the time is to withdraw. And this book actually super duper highlights how the avoidant tends to relate to life. So their core belief in relationships is I will be hurt if I initiate contact with you. Their image of their partner is that they are demanding and all-consuming. Their relationship to the partner will be detached and avoidant. And the other core issues that they will have with their partners is too much togetherness, too many feelings, and too much chaos. So their way of conflict management is hyper-rational, avoidant, passive, aggressive, withdrawing, coldness. So their growth challenge in meeting someone like me, so they're bringing me in order for them to also understand and heal this part of themselves. But you have to be conscious to get this, right? Because then this is why this book says keeping the love you find. And he really highlights the fact that if everyone was conscious and understood what is happening between two people, then relationships will not feel so tragic and end. Marriages wouldn't be 50% of marriages end, like first marriages, and 75% of second marriages also end. So it's not like we're gonna get married again and we're going to have a different experience, because if we don't understand what's happening consciously between the anxious and the avoidant, and we don't heal our shit, it's gonna come up again, right? Because this is how we learn. And then every time I feel like a masculine interacts with me, I heal a little bit more parts of my anxious self, because let's talk about that now, right? So the growth challenge for the avoidant is claiming their right to initiate emotional and physical contact, to express feelings, to increase body awareness and sensory contact with environment. And then for me, as the anxious person, like my core belief is that I can't get my needs met. My relationship belief is I am safe if I hold on to you. That's why we become like clingy. We have separation and abandonment issues. So the avoidant has a wound that they're gonna have a loss of self through contact with the partner, right? So they fear that they're gonna lose themselves through too much contact with a partner. And the anxious attached person is the complete opposite. They fear loss of self through loss of contact with their partner. So it's the complete opposite. So what feels normal to me to feel safe is to attach to my partner. What feels normal to the avoidant is to have the complete opposite experience. So once we understand that, then we can make sense of what's happening. And that is what it means to be in a conscious relationship. So my relationship belief as an anxious attached person is if I'm safe if I hold on to you. And my image of my partner will be that he's unavailable, has no feelings, is like a rock wall, cold. And then my relationship to my partner is going to tend to be clinging, demanding, attempting to fuse. I don't like separation. Typical frustrations is that they're not there. And then again, as I said, the typical frustration for the avoidant is you feel too much. And then my conflict management would be hyper emotional, uncompromising, demanding, and then giving in. So my growth challenge is to let go, and then do things on my own, and then negotiate. So I feel like I have done so much of these things. So I am so grateful for every time I experience my masculine being avoidant with me. But this last time, I'm not quite sure. Well, I couldn't see it on my own, so I needed help from my counselor to actually understand what was going on for me. And in this last time, where I was actually being labeled as drama queen and being a kid. So I understand the reference to a kid, because literally what happens is when we get our triggers by this avoidant anxious dance between romantic partners, the kid part is our inner child. Yes, that inner child is going to come out and is going to want to understand what's happening. If we have the awareness to be able to be that with our partner, then that inner child can feel safe, and it can be seen, and it can be soothed, and it can be secure. But if that inner child, if myself in that moment receives name calling, which I am so used to. I mean, my mom called me names her entire life, and then my predominant relationship was, I've heard it all, like, you're too needy, you're too much, you're a drama queen, you're this, you're that. And at the end of the day, I'm really not that. I'm just a human having a human experience that decided that I would really love to experience what an anxious attachment style is going to feel like. And I take on the persona of what that person is telling me, and I associate myself with that label. So then I bring in more of those experiences, because they could tell me a million beautiful things, but you just call me drama queen, and then boom, that reinforces what I felt when I was a kid. Because God forbid I expressed dissatisfaction or any sort of challenge that was going on from within me, it was not able to be received by my primary caregiver. And then it would be like, and so what if I said that I'm your mom? So like completely discounted of the experience. No, when you call me Four Eyes because I have glasses, it really hurts my feelings. Receiving the answer, oh, and so what if I say that I'm your mom? That doesn't allow me to be seen or soothed or validate my existence at all. Like, it does the complete opposite. So of course, I'm going to bring in people that keep saying that to me when I'm adult, because as my counselor said, it was really clear to her that the lesson that I needed to learn in this particular week through that experience is it is valid, and it is okay, and it is safe to express my feelings, because I've never had the opportunity to do so without being told that I'm being too much, that I'm being drama queen, I'm being a kid. I'm like, I hope that makes sense. So once I understand that, of course, it makes sense to me to not like become my wound, because it would be easy. It would be so easy for me to have this week go different, because if I'm so in love with someone and all I want is to connect with them and be close to them, and I'm not talking about like in an unhealthy way. Like, I feel like I've healed all those types of unhealthy attachments. But even if we are in that stage where we're trying to understand why we are like wanting to cling a lot, and like everything is okay, it doesn't matter what stage of healing you're in or you're at. And this is where we betray ourselves, because we become the words that the other person is saying to us, and then we betray ourselves and the experience that we're having as a human being. We chose to have this experience. There's nothing wrong with us. So if you don't betray yourself and go back into fully loving all parts of yourself and saying, no, it's okay. I don't need to hold that label, but I know why it's happening for me, because I'm still not feeling safe to express my thoughts and my feelings, because I still feel that they're not important enough, that I'm not important enough. That's all it is. It's still remnants of that old patterning that is still alive from within me, that would serve me best to be healed, because if it's not going to be this experience, it's going to be another one again that highlights it until I live and breathe. It is safe to express my thoughts and my feelings. Now, where it gets a little bit tricky is, it's fine and dandy to express thoughts and feelings, but it gets a little bit tricky when you bring in an avoidance, because that's the complete nightmare to them. So this is where communication and compromise and like Jonathan Robinson's book, More Love, Less Conflict, which is a communication playbook for couples, he really, really says that using care, understanding, and empathy, sorry, not care, curiosity, understanding, and empathy, Q, is really important in these situations because it allows you to understand where your partner is coming from. Therefore, that would eliminate things such as perhaps me calling my person, oh, why you're being so mean, or you're being so cold, or the other person calling me, oh, you're being drama queen right now, or you're being dramatic, you're being too much. It's like, no, if we understand what's actually going on with each other, then we can help alleviate this conflict and turn the love that he says can be turned into a nightmare back into, better feelings for the couple itself and for each other. Because I can allow myself to go downwards because I can start to have thoughts such, okay, I can be like, here I go again. Here I am being too much. Like, what the heck is wrong with me? Why can't anyone listen to me? Why can't anyone hear what I'm saying? Like, am I still so unworthy of being, heard, validated, all these things? And then that can affect, these thoughts will affect my emotions. And then I can be like super sad and super upset and disappointed. And then that can lead me to like, I don't know, drinking alcohol or, like not eating, crying, not wanting to go out, withdrawing, like feeling shit about myself. And then it just creates like this terrible, terrible sequence of events that then brings in more shit sequence of events into my life. And then it becomes consuming and just like not fun. So I hope that this video will help all the beautiful humans that have decided to experience the anxious attachment style in this lifetime. Remember, this was our choice, and we bring in these people in order for us to understand what's going on for us. Remember that it's not your fault. You're not too much. You're actually being exactly as you were meant to when it comes to experiencing yourself as this. And once you have the awareness, then you can start to understand why you bring in people that are of an avoidant nature, because this is how it helps you grow, right? Like all these books say, this is how we will grow, by understanding that we're going to bring in opposite wounded partners in our life in order to highlight what is going on for us. I hope I did not miss anything. No, I think I've talked about everything. Yes, and I also really want to highlight the fact that if you're being called names by your romantic partner, where they're telling you that you're too much, you're being drama queen, because I hear this not only in my, I hear this in my actual personal experiences. This is nothing new to me. But with people that I work with that are of anxious attachment style, this tends to be what their partner will say to them. It's always like around drama, like they're being dramatic. But it's because now that we understand how the avoidant works, like that really feels really overwhelming for them. They don't deal with things as we do. Their sense of flow is way different than our sense of flow. My sense of flow is communication every day. My sense of flow is connection, because this is how we relate to the self that we learned when we were a child. And for the avoidant, it's the complete opposite. And then when the avoidant doesn't want to talk about feelings and emotions, what they do say in the Gottman Institute of, it's like for couples, is actually to go no more than 24 hours of not speaking to each other about it. So say if the avoidant says, no, I need time and space right now, I can't deal with this. What they're supposed to be doing to also appease the anxious attached style is to circle back to it in 24 hours, and preferably the anxious attached person the avoidant go to the anxiously attached person. So if the avoidant doesn't want to talk about it right there and they need time, what is most ideal is within 24 hours of that initial conversation for them to go to their anxious attached partner and say, I'm ready to talk about this now. That way you give yourself the time and you get what you need, but then you also give your partner what they need, which is that connection, and the knowing that you are going to circle back to them, and they don't have to initiate it. You care for them enough that you go to them and you start to initiate that conversation, and then you build safety, right? That's how safety is built in a relationship, and more safety, better intimacy, better everything, better understanding, better everything. But yes, this is how safety is so big, and we can't create safety unless we understand how each one of us works and why we are brought into each other. Because I truly believe and know it's always 50-50, just like basic laws of chemistry. Every interaction is 50-50, like 50% you, 50% them. You come together, you create this. It's never just you, so please don't take it personally. Remember the 4 agreements? Never take anything personally. And also, I did receive this one sentence too from my predominant masculine, which was them like choosing not to spend time with me because they want peace. I can take that really personally, because I can be like, oh my, like I'm chaos, because that's all I felt my entire life, that I'm such a terrible human being. I'm chaotic, I'm too much, I'm too this, I'm too that, like I'm not. But now that I read this book, and it literally says that for the avoidant, where did it say about, oh yeah, their core issues is too much chaos. Like that's what they experience life to be like. We don't know what turmoil goes on within their head. I just know what turmoil goes on within my head. So yeah, the core issue of having too much chaos, I can see why they would want peace. And then that's why I can't take it personally, because I mean, even though I know, because people tell me that I feel like a meditation to be with, or I'm so light, and or like they tell me like all these beautiful things. It's a lot easier for me to grasp on that sentence and be shit, like I'm freaking chaotic, like I suck, I'm a terrible human being, I'm chaos, I bring nothing good to the table. And it's really easy for me to become that persona, and that's really, really, really sad. So if there's any of you out there that struggle with this, please do not take it personally. You're not chaos because someone else is craving peace and you're craving the complete opposite. Because peace is found in different ways. Hi, Dean. Peace is found in different ways between the avoidant and between the anxious attached person. Okay, I had to let my dog out for a second. I felt bad for him. I was completely neglecting him. Yes, and I was saying what feels peaceful to an anxious attached type of person is connection, communication, intimacy. Peace for an avoidant is actually the complete opposite. So we can't discredit what each one wants and each one feels, but we also cannot take it personally. You cannot, please don't take it personally, because this is how you betray yourself, and this is how you make yourself feel shitty, but it's actually not there meant to make you feel shitty. It's just meant to really help you understand that it's safe to be you, it's safe to express your feelings. And then when we do it in a conscious way, we can liberate ourselves from any discomfort that really wants to arise from these interactions. And the last thing that I'm going to say as well is there are many different types of communicators. And this is a really good book too, because an indirect communicator versus direct communicator will have different needs and wants in their communication as well, because a direct communicator wants to say minimal words, and an indirect communicator will want to say 1,500 words, which tends to be my communication style. So also understanding that will help the connection, your relationship, and also understanding that the needs. This is actually really good. My podcast partner sent that to me this last week, because I was experiencing so much discomfort within myself, because I kept asking the question, am I being too much? Like, is there really something wrong with me? Have I not learned? Like, are my needs not valid? Am I really this chaotic, crazy person that cannot express herself? Because I try to use nonviolent communication. I know sometimes I get triggered. I try to explain, like, am I really this terrible human being? And she sent this to me, and it's labeled all needs are valid. So it's between the anxious and the avoidant dance. So what the anxious needs in a relationship is attention in various forms, reassurance that they are important and valuable, spending time together, quantity and quality matters, frequent communication, reminders that they are thinking about them, being available when they have had a difficult day, frequent physical contact, both nurturing and sexual. They require patience, gentleness, and validation when they are struggling or feeling overwhelmed. And then in turn, what the avoidant needs is understanding that they want love and attention too, but just in a different way. Reassurance that you see them trying their best to meet your needs. They need reminders that you are thinking about them without expectation of lengthy conversations. Lengthy conversations do not work for them. The autonomy and independence to engage in activity without you. They also, being respectful of their desire for personal space is important to them. And alone time to process when struggling or feeling overwhelmed is also really important to them. So I actually didn't know this in this depth. So now that I do understand it a bit more, but I am pretty good about asking, like, what do you need? And I'm also really good about voicing what I need. But it doesn't matter if the person is not ready or doesn't want to or doesn't have the capacity, even, because you have to have the three. There's capacity, the capacity, right? Like, do you have enough time, or like, how are you internally? And then there's the comprehension, like, do you understand really what's happening? So not only, so even if you understand really what's happening, is there a capacity there to actually do that? And then there is, like the compassion for self and for what the other person is experiencing. I apologize about the loud noises in the background. That is my daughter and her friends baking. And yes, I'm gonna leave the video right here. I feel that I did it justice. Please let me know what you think about this. Please, I would love to hear if you're an anxious, attached person, much like me, and what your experience has been so far. And I would also really love to hear from the avoidants, and as I try to understand them better, because I don't know how you guys think and feel. I just know that I love bringing you into my life, because this is how I learn and this is how I grow. So I thank you. And if you liked anything about this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please put them below. Hit that notification button if you don't want to miss a video from me. And if you have subscribed already, I would love for you to do so. And with all my love and gratitude, I'll see you next time.